Hello everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to Autistics on Autism. This is my fuzzy co-star here, Freya. She's been wandering around being crazy. I probably don't say this in most of our videos, but guys, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. We're going to be putting out a lot of videos to try and add to the knowledge base out there. Most people don't understand autism very well, and most autistics don't actually understand autism very well. And we're doing a ton of research on it. It kind of helps, one, my stepchild is autistic, and that's how we ended up discovering, through that, we ended up discovering that so am I, so is my wife, and then we started researching it. We started researching it and realized how little we know and how little most people know. So we wanted to try and get more information out there to maybe help people that are autistic, found out they are autistic later in life, or people that have family members, children, coworkers, friends that are autistic, just to get more information out there. Because as I say in every video, it is the fastest growing learning and developmental disability in the United States. It has been for a few years now. It is also the least funded. Almost all the funding and research that is going into autism is privately funded and privately researched. So there's not a lot of information out there. Most people, what they think of autism is just a tiny, tiny, tiny part of the entire autism spectrum. So if you guys are interested, check some of the links down below if you're interested in learning more about it, learning more about some of the research into it, or just donating to try and help the research into autism and try and help autistics. One thing that is a very frightening statistic is the 50,000 autistic people every year graduate high school, and because it is the least funded, there is zero federal programs and federal support systems in place for autistic adults. So once they graduate high school, it all ends, which is probably why somewhere around 30% of young autistic adults that did not pursue any kind of further education, such as college or trade school, also have never held a job, because there's no support systems out there for them and nothing to help them continue in their growth and continue to understand their own neurodivergent mindset and their own differences in how they think. So today we are going to talk about ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis. Applied Behavioral Analysis. And ABA is the most commonly used therapy for autistic children. If they are diagnosed at a young enough age, ABA is the most common therapy out there. It is a little bit controversial, especially, amazingly enough, amongst autistics. And yet, it does have its good and it does have its bad, and it has changed over the years. So we're going to talk about ABA today. We're not going to say whether it's good. We're not going to say whether it's bad. I'm going to talk about some of the good. I'm going to talk about some of the bad, at least from my point of view. But guys, it does work. It does work. It has been proven to work. One of the problems with autism is because no two autistics are alike, ever. ABA, any kind of behavioral therapy, really needs to be individualized. For children, not quite as much, because once you're starting at such a young age, there are certain behaviors that you know either need to be eliminated or improved upon. And but for adults especially, any kind of therapy for autism and improving quality of life or improving the ability to function within society and with societal norms, it has to be very, very, very tightly individualized. So ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis, it's a method that they use to basically take the autistic child, and it's something they only do 10 to 20 hours a week. Again, it's a therapy thing, ABA therapy. It's not, way of life. They're not, living in a dorm getting shoehorned into this every single second of every single day. But it's a way of identifying their behaviors, and especially their neurodivergent, atypical type of behaviors, and either teaching them to control or eliminate some of them, and to teach them how to do other behaviors. The reason that it was controversial in the past no longer exists, one of the reasons, because they took out punitive parts of ABA. Back in the day, ABA absolutely had punitive parts. It would reward behaviors that was considered good, but there was an actual punishment to behaviors that were considered bad. Now that is gone. One of the other things that is gone is it's not really a desk work kind of therapy thing anymore like it used to be. Now it is much more done as sort of a playtime kind of thing to make it more engaging and more interesting for the children. Now, some of the good, some of the bad. Let's talk about some of the good first. So, as much as there are movements amongst the autistic community to almost reclassify autism away from being a disorder or a disability and more just to be a descriptor almost, no different than race, sex, national origin, stuff like that. Unfortunately, in certain cases, certain levels of the spectrum, it is unfortunately a disability, and especially in the lower end of the spectrum, you've got some autistics that really hate the high functioning, low functioning phrases. I understand that, but the way I look at it, if somebody cannot take care of themselves as an adult, then unfortunately they are low functioning, and are unable to be themselves and take care of themselves and have to be taken care of. Then unfortunately I do consider that somewhat low functioning. But it does not mean that there's a good chance that whatever's going on in their head is they've got something in there that is at a highly advanced level. Probably some, mathematically and musically something they're just unable to express it. But so, ABA teaching certain things such as how to talk, how to maintain a conversation, or how to understand the natural cadence of conversation to know when it's your turn to speak, when it's not your turn to speak. That is actually a skill that is needed through later in life. So learning that skill, whether or not it's something that the brain will naturally do, like it does for neurotypical people, is kind of irrelevant. Learning the skill is still important. It is still an important skill. Learning how to make eye contact, I'm not so sure that's an important skill. Learning how to fake it might be. It's weird because I'm able to talk to the camera just fine, but I have a lot of difficulties in eye contact. And you guys notice a lot of times when my eyes drift down, I'm actually not looking at my notes. It's because I have my screen facing me, and I actually made eye contact with myself, and my eyes just immediately diverged. But the inability to make eye contact, eventually that can be smoothed over because you learn how to compensate for that, and either how to fake it, look at different parts of the face, look just off, look at their ear, look just off of them, or one of the things I tend to do is I tend to have my head on a swivel a lot. Since I work in a very, very busy place with a lot of people around me, I can maintain a conversation while I'm looking around and it doesn't look odd. So I can not make eye contact and still make it look natural. But a lot of these little things that are necessary to blend into society, is it fair? No. Should it, should a person have to maintain eye contact? No, they really shouldn't. But that has nothing to do with whether or not they're going to be able to get a job later in life. If you need to be able to at least get a tiny portion of eye contact for a little while, be able to shake hands, be able to understand the cadence back and forth of a conversation, even be able to show empathy, and handle a little bit of subtlety in conversation, whether or not it's fair, whether or not it should be that way, and whether or not neurodivergent people should be forced into neurotypical behaviors. That doesn't matter. What honestly matters is this going to be necessary for them later in life to succeed? And is it necessary? No. But does it certainly help? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, there are plenty out there that manage to find great success while still having all their neurodivergent behaviors. But there are tens of thousands every single year that are not. They're not able to end up enjoying life or having a job or having friends or taking care of themselves because they don't get those opportunities because of their neurodivergent behavior, and it's so obvious. So the ABA that tries to smooth some of that out, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Especially the ABA therapy that tries to remove things like self-harming behavior. Absolutely, that is a good thing. You would have a lot of difficulty saying that it's a bad thing trying to stop somebody from having behaviors that hurt themselves, from having self-injurious behaviors. And that is a common thing, very, very common thing for autistics, especially right around the age of 8. Something like 30-40% of 8-year-old autistics have self-injurious behavior. They injure themselves on a constant basis on purpose, hitting themselves, things along those lines. So, is that a good thing to be eliminating? Yes, absolutely. How can you say it's not? But you have a lot of autistics that say that trying to force people that are neurodivergent into a neurotypical lifestyle is a bad thing. And again, I understand. Some behaviors, it's not so much that they need to be eliminated, they need to be taught, is that they're just going to be so much more useful later in life, and it's going to make life easier for most autistics if they are able to master or at least fake these things. Again, it doesn't mean it's fair. And one thing about neurodivergent people, autistic people that are trying to be neurotypical and trying not to show their autistic tendencies is it is absolutely exhausting. Absolutely exhausting. And it can be highly, highly, highly stressful. So there is definitely a balance in there, which is, again, why there's a fairly large autistic movement out there trying to make autism more of a socially accepted thing. I'm not so sure that's really going to, catch on, because again, it's societal norms are societal norms. It's what the majority of people do. If the majority of people make eye contact and shake hands, that's what the majority of people do. Should they vilify someone that doesn't? Absolutely not. Of course not. But it's still going to stand out. It's still going to stand out. It's still going to look odd. And generally, when given a choice between someone that fits into that you're comfortable with and holds the same standards of behavior that you do, and someone that does not, you're generally going to go with the one that tends to act a little bit more like you, which is why so many autistics have difficulty getting jobs and have difficulty with job interviews, because they're probably not the only one interviewing. And even if they have a fantastic resume, there's probably someone else with a fantastic resume that was really engaging, was really smooth, was a really good talker, made great eye contact, and had a firm handshake, and was just really good conversationally, and just connected with the interviewer. And well, that person's probably going to get the job. Just the way it is. So, yes, it's got its pluses and minuses. Now, one of the problems with the ABA and its methods is, again, trying to force that neurotypical behavior. I don't think there should be too much put into it, aside from getting rid of the self-injurious behavior and trying to teach maybe emotional regulation or emotional control, or methods of it to prevent or at least minimize the meltdowns, because the meltdowns also lead to injuring themselves on accident, which is bad. Obviously, it's definitely not good, and should be more focused towards learning skills instead of learning behaviors, if that makes sense. Instead of changing a behavior, teach a skill. Teach a skill that will also help. Plus, if it's kind of couched that way, if you look at something as a skill and not as the way you're doing this, you're doing this wrong, it can help, especially for autistics. So autistics love rules. They love rules and love routines. So if you say, hey, this is a skill, you're learning, shaking hands is a skill, and you should do it this way every single time. Instead of looking at it as a you don't like to shake hands and there's something wrong with you, but instead say not most people don't know how to shake hands, so let's teach you how. It's a skill. It's a skill, and there's a way to do it. That actually might help with some autistics, and getting away from teaching them that how they behave is wrong. That shouldn't be the way it's done. Aside from the self-injurious behavior again. So there are some that suggest, some autistics that believe that speech and language therapy is a better response than applied behavioral analysis therapy for autistic children. It's hard to say because, again, every autistic child is different. Did we do ABA for our stepson? No, we did not. But his speech and his abilities have progressed far beyond what his age group should be at, despite how far behind he was before. But that does not mean that what we did with him would work with other children. It just doesn't work that way because, again, no two autistics are the same. And other critics of ABA just don't believe that it's a good idea forcing neurotypical behavior into neurodivergent people. And I understand that. Again, it's very exhausting. It's very exhausting, and it is highly, highly, highly stressful trying to hide your neurodivergent behaviors and your neurodivergent tendencies. Just as a minor example, the other night I took my wife out to dinner. We went out to one of our favorite bars. It has a phenomenal dinner menu, and didn't realize, because we're not sports fans, that it was Thursday Night Football. Completely forgot. So, we're sitting in there, and it is very, very, very loud. And it's very busy. It's a lot of people in there and making a lot of noise. And they turn, they have the football game on, then they turn on some music, some really loud music. And so I'm just surrounded by people, surrounded by noise, surrounded by rowdiness, and then super loud music. And my wife asked me a couple times if anything was wrong, and nothing was particularly wrong, other than the fact that my leg was going about 1,000,000 miles an hour underneath the bar. Nobody could see it. So I was making sure to be as normal as I possibly could. Now she's, again, the fact that my wife is also autistic, although presents way differently than me, possibly helps. And of course she's my wife, so she knows me. So she realized pretty quickly that the noise was definitely stressing me out. So we ate, and then we ate because we went there to eat. We ate, and then we took off. We left. But I guarantee you that nobody else in that bar realized. Nobody else in that bar realized I was in any way, shape, or form stressed out. And so hiding your neurodivergent tendencies and your neurodivergent behaviors, again, it is exhausting, and it is highly, highly, highly stressful. Masking is extremely exhausting, extremely stressful, which is why the longer and longer and longer somebody has to mask, the more stressed out they get, the more tired and more exhausted they get. So that's why a lot of autistics don't like lengthy social engagements, don't like going out for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours at a time in social settings and in public settings, because they have to maintain their mask for longer and longer and longer. And they could very well be in situations that are really stressing them, be it noises or lights or sounds or crowds. So they're having additional stressors put on them. They're trying to hide, so they have to mask. They put more effort into their masking, and it just kind of snowballs, and it gets very, 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 very stressful. Again, very, very exhausting, until a certain point they just break, and then it's I gotta go, and just take off, or just disappear. I can't tell you how many times I've been out, especially in my younger years, and I've been out with a large group, maybe a group from work or something like that. The next day I'll have people, hey, what happened to you? I got really, really tired, so, I went ahead and took off. I just vanished on them. I just vanished on them. I'd be wandering, because the group's wandering around. Maybe we're at a nightclub or at a casino or at a bar, so I'm just wandering around, and then I just kind of wander out the door. Nobody really notices because, again, we're scattered all over the place. But, for me, it was time to go. I was getting stressed out. I was getting tired. So there you guys go. That is a little bit about applied behavioral analysis and ABA therapy, and whether or not what some of the critics and some of the proponents say about it. Hope you guys find this interesting. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye now.